Hi everybody. We are going to start our 3D printing unit today, and I'm going to give you some background, and I will do a series of short videos for this unit, and hopefully you will all be able to print something if it's not too large and if it is done correctly and everything is connected correctly. We'll talk about what that entails later, but I'm going to get started right away. And first of all, the things that you really need, you need a Chromebook, of course. And if you have a mouse, that would be extremely helpful because there are shortcuts with the mouse that make it a lot easier. You can use the touchpad on the Chromebook. There are ways to do that. So I will discuss that along the way. But if you can get a mouse and plug it in, whether it's wireless or wired, that would be fantastic. So I'm going to get started and give you a little bit of background information and show you something being printed. And then the next video will get started with actually learning the app, which is called Tinkercad. Some of you may have started using it already. I don't know, but that's what we're going to use. So I think we'll get started right away. Going to make myself smaller. Okay, there's a slideshow that I usually use to give background information. So that's what I think I will start with right now. It's a little bit laggy. Okay, so 3D printing is additive manufacturing. It's manufacturing a part by depositing and fusing materials one layer at a time. It's often called 3D printing. So it's kind of like the pyramids were made, where they layered rock upon rock, etc. And here's a 3D printer in action. And in a few moments, I'll go show you what's being printed right now. But let me keep moving here. This next thing is a little short video that really gets to the point right away. So let's check that out next. This might take a second to load. Oh no, not bad. All right, let's check it out.
We've all heard the buzz surrounding 3D printing. Some call it the third or 3D industrial revolution. But what exactly is 3D printing, and how big of an impact will it have on our future? The concept is quite simple. Much like your printer prints ink on a page, 3D printers spit out material, whether it be plastic, metal, or even concrete, to form a three-dimensional object. But instead of printing one layer as ink from a normal printer does, multiple layers are stacked upon each other to create complex 3D structures. Think of it like making sliced bread, but in reverse. After putting one layer down, another is built on top of that, and so on until the whole loaf of bread is put together. Lost or broke something that you can no longer buy? Simple. Create or download the design online and 3D print it out. Have a specific or personal holiday present idea and can't find it? Print it. In fact, GE's Tumblr, 3dprintmygift.tumblr.com, is doing exactly this for the holiday season. We'll put a link in the description. And if you require moving parts in your design, the printer simply leaves gaps in the right spots or uses a special gel that can be dissolved or rinsed off afterwards. Speaking of design, 3D printing paves the way for incredibly customized objects made on demand to fit your requirements. Not only does this mean furniture, shoes, and appliances built to fit your lifestyle, but things like prosthetic limbs can have completely customized user designs as opposed to generic mass-produced products. Need something small and intricate? Typical 3D printers create layers approximately 100 micrometers thick, but some high-end machines can print as small as 16 micrometers. To put this in perspective, a typical bacteria cell has a width of between 1 to 10 micrometers. This has opened the door to using molecules for ink and has led to successful 3D printed pharmaceutical drugs such as ibuprofen. The tiny molecules are organized perfectly to create the desired drug effect. Hungry? In the future, you might be able to ask Siri to 3D print a meal perfected for your palate. But perhaps the most significant application is creating 3D structures out of living cells, or bio-ink. Instead of using plastic or metal, imagine 3D printing tissue to replace damaged skin or to reproduce entire organs from scratch. Instead of needing an organ donor, you just print one based off of your genetics. Amazingly, this technology is already being developed. For burns or scrapes, a scanner is used on a patient's wound and a personalized skin map is created. After this, the printer lays down cells one layer at a time until the area is covered. Organs are much more complex due to their large size, vascular networks, and interactions with the body. A scanner takes X-ray images of, say, a patient's kidney as cross-sections with incredibly intricate detail. And just like any other object, these organs are reproduced layer by layer, specifically designed for each individual. Though these are years away from being functional, it will certainly have a huge impact on the medical community. So while it may be a while before you end up with a 3D printer in your home, you can be sure that by the time it happens, the world will be a different place. But if you can't wait that long, GE is giving 3D printing its own holiday this December 3rd. It's D3 for 3D. To celebrate their 3D printing and giving away customized gifts for their fans all day, all you have to do is visit 3dprintmygift.com.
Okay, that's good for that. So a few things I want to mention that took place in that video. Number one, the BioInk. So they're working on this right now. It's not in full scale final product yet. They're working on developing it, but if you had a bad burn, they may be able to take your DNA, your cell makeup, and quickly do a skin graft for you instead of waiting a long time. Or if you needed a kidney, maybe someday in the future we could 3D print them. So they're working really diligently on that. One thing I love about 3D printing, and we will talk about it later in the unit, is you can make things that you can't find to buy or that you don't want to pay to buy. So a good example of that, and I have several that I've done in the past, and I'll show you those later. But this here, let me make myself a little bit bigger. This is a light that I bought for my mom, and we want to use it as a display, but it's a little bit too heavy. It works on magnets. I need to make and design a bracket to fit around this and screw into the top of her china cabinet. So that's something I'm going to be working on in the next couple days. And I can definitely do it. I measure it out and I can 3D print it. So it's really a great thing, and I think everyone's going to really enjoy doing this. Okay, let me move on a little bit. Just a couple more slides. So this has been around since I was in high school over across the way at Boardman. It began in 1984, and there was a patent by Charles Hall, and that patent still exists, and so does the company, in 1986, 3D Systems Corporation. All right, so the benefits of 3D printing is it's easy to customize and personalize things. So we'll watch a video later about how Nike is working on producing shoes, for instance, so it would fit you absolutely perfectly. Prosthetic limbs is another thing. It's a quick method for prototyping. So if you have an invention, you could maybe print out a version of it to see if it works. And we've done that too, Mr. Ruggieri and I at the high school. It's fast to prototype, and it doesn't cost a lot either. The other great thing about 3D printing, there's less waste. So when you go to build something, like I've built some tables in here, when I cut away the wood, it's wasted material. But when you 3D print, it's just layer upon layer, and the only waste is a little piece of plastic that goes around the bed before you start to make sure the printer is working okay. It saves energy. You can reduce weight by 3D printing. I'll show you that later. And it's easy to customize and personalize items. Disadvantages, especially with our machines, not very precise sometimes. Let's see, slow to produce. So it does take a while to print these things. And I'll talk about the printing time on some of the stuff. But, if you have something small, say, I don't have anything next to me right now, but let's say you had something as small as this, that would take a good hour at least to print. Large things like the brackets for this, it's going to take a couple hours to print that because it's going to be quite large. So that's a kind of a disadvantage too. So this is how it works. You're going to create a file, you're going to design it, and we're going to use Tinkercad. Then we're going to send it to a slicer, and that slicer figures out how many layers there are, like in an instant. It's amazing. And then we can send it to the printer. So that's how that works. Cool. Let's see what we have next. Okay, that's good for now. So I am going to, I think we'll stop the video now, and we'll put forth another video where we're going to get started with Tinkercad itself. All right? Excellent.